Welcome to Lifestyle Med with Dr. Jade. Health, it's a lifestyle.
Hey family, we are going live for our first Mentorship Monday. There she is. Hey,
Hey guys,
it's good to see you. And
good
thank
to
you
see
guys
you.
for being here. I don't go live often. This is actually my first real live on my Instagram, so this is super exciting. And so, Jamesa, tell us a little bit about who you are. For those of you who are joining, we are talking about microaggressions and being Black in medicine tonight. This is our Mentorship Monday series, our first one, where we just want to have candid mentor-mentee type of relationships and conversations and discussions. And we want to share that with you because there may be other professional women and medical students out there in other professional fields that may also want to have some mentorship and glean some advice. And I'm all about that. So, Jamesa, tell us, a little bit about yourself and how we connected.
Okay, so I'm a third year medical student at Ross University. And I'm always on Instagram. That's where I come to for inspiration. That's where I come to network. That's where I come to just check in and see what like my friends who are to the same place as myself are doing. And so I think that I think I follow all these medical pages and I just really stumbled upon your page and I followed and I started liking your post and I'm like, this Dr. Jade seems pretty cool.
Aw.
And then, I scrolled down for your post and I saw that you were looking for an intern and I'm like, wow, I really want to work with with this doctor. And so I reached out to you and we connected.
Absolutely. And yeah, I just posted that, looking for a social media intern a few months ago. And it was just because I am a mom, I'm a doctor, I'm a wife, and, social media is definitely a part of my brand. I want to tell people about, what I know about health and wellness and share that journey with everybody. But, you have to learn what you can handle, what you can't handle. And it was becoming to the point where I needed some help. And so that's why I just put that out there. And I was like, you know what, God, if it's meant for me to get some help with this, great. And if it's meant for me to continue to juggle it all, we'll continue to do that too. And then, God connected us and it has been awesome already. I definitely know that God connected us. But what I want to know is, why, when we talked about Mentorship Monday and you were like, I think it would be great for us, it was already built in that we would have a mentor mentee relationship. But you were like, well, I really think it would be awesome to do Mentorship Mondays. And where, we're already going to be having these mentorship relationships and conversations. Why not share with others and other med students? So, why did you want to do these? And why, when I asked you, okay, well, what do you want to talk about? Why did you want to talk about microaggressions and being Black in medicine first?
Okay, so first of all, I wanted to do Mentorship Mondays because I feel like there's just so many questions that I have, and I know that a lot of my classmates have, a lot of people that I don't know have. And, sometimes it's hard to find genuine responses to those questions. There are things on the internet, but sometimes they're very like, vague, not really cater directly to your needs. And also, when I first started med school and I started to approach people asking them to be my mentor, I had no idea what a mentor was or what to even do with a mentor.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I understand now, like from our relationship, the way that we talk, the things that you've taught me. And so I really want to, I think that using this platform, we can encourage others on how to find good mentors and even, questions that others may have that they can be answered through this platform. Um, Microaggressions, well, it's Black History Month,
Yeah. Yeah.
first of all. And then, so I'm from Dominica, right? Where everyone is basically Black or basically identifies as being a Black person.
Right.
And so I'll be starting clinical rotations in the US in the next few months. And I've never really been in a situation where I experienced racism before, and I'm very grateful for that. But I want to be prepared. Like, I want to know, okay, like what is microaggression even, right? Because I mean, I feel like I've never experienced that, and I would just really like to be equipped for that. Know how to prepare for it so that I don't enter the hospital and something happens and I overreact and throw a tantrum and right. I'd like to be prepared for that. Know how to know what it looks like. Know how to deal with that. Know how to regulate emotionally from that. And you having gone through the system and getting to where you are, I feel that you'll be able to help me navigate and deal with microaggression. And it's still kind of sad to me that we have to have this conversation because in 2021, in 2021, we really should not have to have this conversation. Um, this shouldn't be a thing that I have to worry about or even think about. I should feel like that I can be accepted wherever I go for who I am. But that's not the case, and that's sad. But that's reality. And I know that there are a lot of Black medical students. There are a lot of medical students like who are not even U.S. who are like minority. And I think that a lot of us need to be prepared for what we will encounter. So yeah, that's why I chose this topic.
Yeah, well, you're smart to reach out about this early. It's real. It happens. We're going to go over next, like what microaggressions are, just so we're all on the same page. But it's a conversation that needs to happen and that you need to prepare yourself for as a medical student coming to the States to do rotation. So it's good that you are looking into this early because I was not appropriately prepared. And thank God I had my tribe, my dad, my grandma, my mom to kind of soundboard off of as I went through my journey. But it's important. And so let's first talk about what microaggressions are. And, it's a feeling. I know what they are. I can feel what they are. But this conversation actually led me to look it up, like actually research what is the terminology. And so what I found in several articles is that most people lump microaggressions into three different categories. So the first category is micro assaults. I'm going to be looking down at my notes for this part. And micro assaults is what we all know about, like the intentional racism. For example, this would be like a patient being like, I don't want a Black doctor. Okay. So we all know what that looks like, right? But then the second category is called micro insults. And this is what I find to be much more common, especially more common through my journey. And this is those casual, frequent phrases, often jokes, harmless, most of the time unintentional comments, things like, you're so well spoken, things like that, that really marginalize a specific group, your specific group. Things like, what do your parents do for a living? But not ask anybody else what their parents do for a living. So those were the kind of frequent microaggressions I encountered the most. And then the last one is micro invalidations. And this is things that undermine struggles of target groups. So for example, that's like saying when we see Black people or Black men being murdered, and then Black people say, hey, Black lives matter, for someone then to counter back, all lives matter. Well, now you are micro invalidating because that's not the point of the conversation, right? And so those are the three categories. But I find the second category, micro insults, is what I have definitely had a plethora of at every stage of my journey.
Wow, that's interesting. So micro assault, micro insult, and micro invalidation.
Yeah. Not to make those up. That's like well known in the microaggression literature. But I thought it was interesting to see it lumped in that way because I'm like, of course I know blatant racism, but yes, these microaggressions are those casual little comments that are like, was that racist?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, so my first question is, what challenges what should I expect? I mean, well, should I pray that I don't experience, but what challenges should I be like prepare myself for and like how do I prepare myself to deal with those challenges as a Black medical student in clinical rotations?
Yeah, and I think these challenges will look different at every stage. So my pre-med microaggressions look different from my medical school, which look different from, residency, which I'm in my last year of residency, which I'm sure will look different once I'm an attending next year or at the end of this year. So as a medical student, though, the microaggressions I dealt with the most were people talking over me in group scenarios. Another one was being double guessed on my education often. So I read up on a patient, I read up on it, and as a medical student, you have to do a lot of oral presentations where you say,
Right.
patient is a 65-year-old male admitted for COPD. His labs say this, 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 this. And I had lots of instances where people would double guess if my information was accurate, but not other people. So I dealt with that a lot, and I had to learn how to maneuver through that. And the other thing was, because I had to be confident, I had to say it like I meant it, make sure I double, triple checked so that when I spoke, it was accurate. Then you had people say things like, you're too confident, or your confident can come off as cocky, which is not the case. People will project onto you or I would have someone say, we're just not used to med students being this confident. Well, what does that mean? And so those are the types of things I dealt with the most. But my co-medical students speaking over me or double guessing my knowledge was the most common.
That sounds very annoying. It's like, how do you please these people? So how did you deal with that? Because medicine is a very challenging field, and like there's so many other there's like it's so stressful without that layer. So how would you regulate? How would you take care of yourself in order to prevent that from really getting to you and frustrating you?
Yeah, I learned to, what's the word? I learned to have a certain face that I would allow people to see, which is basically a face of, you're not going to see me sweat, you're not going to see me break. And I really learned to pick my battles I picked when I would educate. I picked when I would say, hey, actually, I was still speaking, and correct and teach people how to treat you. I think that's the biggest lesson I learned, is that as we progress and as we have communication with others, we teach people how to treat us. If someone speaks over you and you allow it, then they will speak over you and think it's okay to not only do it to you, but to others that look like you potentially. And so I was very cognizant of the fact that I will never get loud. I will never allow somebody to feel like I am being a stereotypical Black girl, because the moment you get an attitude, you are the ghetto Black girl. Let's just say, we're just talking, right? But confidence and I was blessed to have mothers and grandmothers who instilled confidence in me as a child. So I already knew who I was, so that when I entered this world, I was like, oh, no. I am a queen. I do know what I'm talking about. And if I'm happy to research more diligently, right? But I agree with Black Onyx God. Shut it down early, in a way where you teach people how to treat you. So it's not getting loud, but it is appropriately correcting the behavior. And that's what I found to do. Now, there were definitely times, if there was a power differential, say it was an attending, where I chose my battles. And oftentimes it would be in those feedback sessions, usually at the end of a rotation, you and the attending will have, feedback. And I had to appropriately figure that system out too, because not all feedback is, free for you to give honest feedback. Okay. I learned that the hard way. Oh, you asking me for feedback? I'm ready. But, really just figuring out and gleaning from others. I would ask my dad. My dad is my guy. So I would really bounce, before I was married in med school, early med school days, I wasn't married. So now my husband is really my guy, where I'm like, hey, what do you think? But my dad was really my guy. I would go to and be like, hey, I wanted to go in on this person, but I didn't. What do you think about this? How do you think I should handle that? And having a safe place, a safe person is so key. And you know that we're connected, so you definitely have me that you can come to and bounce ideas off of. But having that safe place,
And I really appreciate that.
yes, before you send that email, before you send that text message, never leave a paper trail unless you wanted to get out there. Really have a good sounding board, a solid sounding board.
But I love that point on teaching people how to treat you. That's beautiful, and I think that's something that we should all apply, not just to the hospital and microaggressions, but to like everything in life.
For sure.
Teach people how to treat you.
Yeah.
I love that. So you kind of answered my third question. Because I wanted to know, okay, your peer treats you this way, you deal with it that way, right? That's kind of easier than dealing with microaggression from someone in the position of authority. Because at the end of the day, like, you as a medical student, like, you're just trying to network and shine and do your best. And like, what happens if someone in the position of power and authority says something to you, but you're thinking that, hey, like, you wanna match at this hospital one day, you might need a letter of recommendation. This was really offensive, but like, what do you do? What do you say? How do you deal with that? Like, how do you stand up for yourself when there's that fear of jeopardizing yourself, or jeopardizing things?
Absolutely. It's sad that you have to be strategic, but you do. Everything needs to be well thought out, because you are often the only one or one of very few that look like you, and it already comes with people having unintentional biases, okay? And so for me, I knew that I had to take every single case by case. I couldn't have one standard way to approach all microaggressions. That just doesn't work, okay? So as they come, filtering through, and you learn, okay, next time it happens like this, I will take this approach. Or, this time I didn't correct that person when they commented on my braids that I just got in the middle of this professional realm. I didn't say anything this time, but next time I think I may say this instead. So they were things I learned along the way, got advice and feedback from my tribe, my dad, my mom, my grandma, and then I adjusted and pivoted as necessary. So I think really being flexible, and really taking a step back before you respond, getting
Right.
that board, and then once you have all the tools in your toolbox on how you will handle all the different situations, then you need that sounding board a little bit less, But having that solid group of people is key, because no two situations are necessarily the same, and they don't all necessarily deem the same response. And one mentor, and I called him my med school dad, he was our Black, I think he was over the diversity. Usually every med school has a diversity and inclusion office. So I called him my med school dad, and halfway through med school, he retired, and a female physician took his spot, and I called her my med school mom, because they were like the underground railroad of med school. Like, they really helped us to be like, ooh, don't say that, don't do that, email this person, don't mess with that person, this person makes all the decisions, this person doesn't. Like, we had that. I had that, and it was needed to get to the finish line. But one thing he said to me was, don't start a revolution until you're finished. And that message went through my mind, because there were so many times I wanted to be like,
down.
And then I would be like, ooh, don't start the revolution, I haven't got that MD yet. And it was true. It was true. I can keep going, but I want to make sure I pause in case.
Right. No, I was just writing that down. Don't start a revolution until you finish. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. I like the way you termed it as having a toolbox. So, okay, so you said that, once you have that toolbox, then you have like things that you can pull from that toolbox, then you're kind of better prepared, right? So, let's be abstract here. Like, what what kind of tools do you think that you have in your toolbox?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was reading some of the comments, but I love that y'all are here. I'm reading them as you go too. But some of the examples of some tools in my toolbox would be when to not say anything, because there are definitely times where I'm like, "Oop, not even worth it." Moving on, so that's one tool. Another tool is when to appropriately correct a person, and just tell them exactly what I'm thinking, but in a professional way that lets them know, oh, that's not how you're going to treat me or speak to me. Okay, so when to correct. The next is when to educate. An example of this, and I am big on the fact that I am not the Black spokesperson. I may be the only Black person in the room, but you're not quote from what I think and what I say in my experience and think that that is the experience of all Black people. So I definitely don't always take the education route. It's pretty rare, actually, because I have my own thoughts about that. But for example, I recently had a moment where I educated, and I had a coworker tell me, and we were very close, had an established relationship, and she said, Jade, I don't agree with this whole Black Lives Matter thing. And so I said, "Ooh, okay, well, let's unpack that." And so which led to a 2-hour conversation of me educating. And I don't have the effort, energy, or desire to educate somebody for 2 hours on the regular. You walk around saying what you're saying to me to other people without you fully being educated. So educating is something I rarely do, but it's an option. It's something in my toolbox. So knowing when I need to go over your head to your boss and when to send an email, when to reach out. So that's another tool in my toolbox, when to do that. So those are, I would say, the main ones.
Okay, so it's when to let it slip, when to let it go, when to correct, when to educate, and when to report.
Yeah, I mean, I just did this off the top, but yeah, thinking back, those are the things, my main tools that I have. And, there may be some others, depending on how disrespectful the microaggression is, the correction may vary in the,
Right.
but, but in general, most microaggressions are unintentional, and they don't even think it's insulting, or don't even think or realize that it's demeaning. And that's when I just appropriately correct. Yeah. With love.
Okay. So this is the second time you're mentioning the unintentional nature of microaggressions, right? That it can be very unintentional. Um, what do you think we as the Black community, not just even the Black community, but we as the minority community, quote unquote minority, what do you think we can do to educate our white counterparts on the things that they say or do in subtle ways that are really not okay?
Yeah.
Like you said, there are some relationships that are worth saving. So
Exactly.
how do you address that in a way that you don't just destroy the relationship, but you correct the behavior?
Yeah, what I hadn't realized in my professional career, and you will realize this the higher you go in education, is that I didn't realize how many people I was the first Black person, or first educated Black person, that they had been around. I hadn't realized that. I had a med school count, many people I went to med school with said I didn't know any white Black people. I didn't go to school with any. I didn't go to college with any. You're the first
Wow.
around, and the only examples they had were the stereotypes in history, the stereotypes on TV, what the media shows. And while
Wow.
I educate, I did choose to show them who I was, be myself, but also, in being myself, that alone showed them what Black people really look like in real life, not on TV, not on these stereotypes, but what a Black person looks like. I hadn't even realized I would be an example of just something so simple. And I think just being myself, being true to who I was, unintentionally taught them and showed them something different. And I agree, Black Onyx guy, that is sad. That is sad, but that is the reality. I have the conversation I had with a co-resident. Now we're talking about somebody almost 30. Last week was that she had never had a conversation with a Black person. Okay?
Wow.
And so outside of the fact that she works with me and outside of the fact that she has Black patients in her clinic, she had never had a one-on-one conversation like we're having right now with a Black person. And so when you know that you're in the room with people where that is their experience, it's also about knowing that everybody is operating through their lens. Everybody is operating their experience. If I had only experienced Black people, then that would be my lens. However, I grew up in Las Vegas where it's very diverse, very multicultural. And so that is the lens in which I look through. And so when I went to a more rural Southern med school, I was blown away that I was the first Black person some people have been around because my lens was a multicultural lens. So I hope I answered your question.
You did.
Okay.
That's wow. That's I'm actually blown by that there are people who actually have not had the opportunity to interact with like or get to know Black people in America in 2021. That's mind-boggling to me.
Yes. It is. It is. And, here's the other thing I really wanted to talk with you about is that just because it's unintentional doesn't mean it's okay. Just because a person doesn't mean to insult you, just because a person doesn't mean to demean you or minimize your knowledge, doesn't mean that it's okay and that you should just let that go every time. So,
Right.
bold about who you are in a way that's non-confrontational, but just is true to your essence. That's really showing them all they need to know, and that's a beautiful thing. Our culture is beautiful. Our people are beautiful, and knowing that and operating in that unapologetically is important. It's important, and not shriveling yourself, not dimming your light, not saying, "Well, I'm gonna be quiet," or nobody looks like me. And let me tell you, I had to grow into that. And just to share a little bit of my testimony, the first time I went to my first medical conference, I was the only Black person there, and no one would speak to me at the mixers. And I left in the middle of the mixer, went to the bathroom, cried, because everybody was mixing and mingling, but everyone was intentionally not speaking to me. And I felt so...
Wow, that's terrible.
Yeah, I felt so small. I felt like I didn't belong. And that is a form of microaggression, just making a certain particular person feel like they don't belong. And so I went to the bathroom, I cried, I called my grandma, and she was like, "You get it all out now. You cry now, you're going to wipe your face, you're going to go back. And this will be the last conference you ever run out of crying." And it was. But that was now I would not be leaving a room crying, feeling like I didn't belong. But that first time I experienced that hostility, that unintentional or unspoken hostility, the first time I experienced that, it jolted me, And so now I know how to handle that, but it was something I had to learn.
Wow, and it's so sad that you had to go through that.
Oh, I've got many a story. But yeah, one in my earlier days. I mean, I have plenty of stories as of late. At every stage I've experienced them. They've all looked different, but for me, they haven't ended. I hope that you don't experience what I've experienced, but they have continued through residency for me. And now, like we said, I have the tools in my toolbox to appropriately adjust and handle. Some still get under my skin. I still sometimes call my dad. My husband definitely still hears, the sounds, but having my tribe, having my tools, and knowing my why, knowing that I'm not going to stop because I have a reason. I have a calling to medicine for a reason. And, seeing the little girls of color, seeing the people of color that I'm passionate about treating and caring for and helping to reverse chronic disease in communities of color and in the Black community. That is my why. And so that is what's kept me going. Having a scripture that I love also was an important part of my journey, and which was I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So whenever
Yeah, that's mine
I
too.
know that's our favorite scripture, which just happens to both be our favorites. But knowing that, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me and reminding myself of that was important. And it helped me to continue. And knowing my why, reminding myself of my why, having a visualization of my future patients, my future practice, which I'm building up now, and knowing that God has put me in each scenario for a reason. So I thank God for it all. It has helped me to be able to sit in front of you and talk to you
Yeah,
about things. If my whole
definitely.
journey was butterflies and kisses, then I'd be like, what microaggressions? What you talking about? But
Yeah, and I really appreciate you sharing all this with me. I do feel more equipped and more encouraged and more empowered. Because like you said, it's important to remember your why. And I'm still hung up on this. Teach people how to treat you.
yes, in every realm, right? Not just medicine, like you said, but every interaction we have, we are teaching people how to treat us.
Hmm. Right. So just like some of the points that I really love from this discussion, having your why, having your toolbox,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing when to use which tool. Your tools being correcting, educating, reporting, or just letting it go. Um, Also, not starting a revolution until you finish medical school. Having your tribe, I love that, and thank you for being part of my tribe. I really appreciate, and even your Instagram page, I love like all the encouraging posts you put out. I love your Wellness Wednesday YouTube videos. And it's important that like after we get this education, we use it to educate others, not just use it to make money. So I'm glad that you're being there for the community, you're advocating, you're empowering others. I really appreciate that. Also, I really love that. I really love that you shared that we can educate others just by being ourselves and showing them what it means to be a Black person. And even if something is unintentional, then that doesn't mean that we should just, allow it and not stand up for ourselves.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much.
This was amazing. I love this. I know we'll be brainstorming about some other Mentorship Monday topics. You guys that are watching, thank you so much for being a part of this first Mentorship Monday experience. Let us know in the comments. We will be reading them. So let us know in the comments if there are certain topics you would like to see us talk about on Mentorship Monday,
Yeah,
because we want to keep this going and keep it organic. I'm super type A. So I was like, should we like script this out? Do we need to like say what we're going to say? And thank you for reminding me, like, no, let's just let it go. And just like we're having a
yeah.
in our living room, just the two of us. So I think that worked very well. And I'm excited to keep this going. So we'll brainstorm on some other Mentorship Monday topics, anything that could help in your journey. I'm all about mentorship. I've had some amazing mentors along the way that I'm so thankful for. And I'm happy to share candidly what I've learned and what I've experienced, tell you what I know and what I don't know. So thank you so much. Thanks everybody for being here. And for all the love in the comments, you guys have been amazing for my first time going live on Instagram. Hey! Oh, okay. So how to build a solid network. Thank you, Mello Trusted. We'll write that one down. Cool. If y'all have any other Mentorship Mondays ideas, you guys can keep them coming. We're going to pop off and wrap it up. But, God bless you all. I wish all of the med students, the professionals out there, I hope that this was informative. And, we're all about just empowering not only the Black community, but just young professionals, go-getters.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep it going in positivity we're both women of Christ, so it's always about following Him for me and following what He says for me, where He wants me to go, and what He wants me to share. So I definitely prayed before this, and I'm thankful
Yeah.
it
Sure.
out so well. And I look forward to our next Mentorship Monday. Y'all, bye.
Bye.
Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you, and God bless.